Hey, Craig Valine here, and we're with Dan Kimbell, 30-year veteran IP attorney, and we're talking about protecting your IP. Dan, I want to talk about budgeting, building your IP budget, I should say, and some best practices for doing that. So,
Right.
what are some of the key factors to consider when budgeting for a patent application?
There's that's another good question. You have nothing but good questions, surprisingly. There's several buckets that you have to consider for a patent application. First of all, there's the patent attorney or patent agent fees. Most patent attorneys and patent agents bill by the hour or will charge you a flat fee to do the work. It's not like a cookie cutter. There is actually a lot of creative writing involved. The more work you do, the less hours they need to spend, but it's going to be a big part of the budget. The next thing is the fees. The government doesn't do it for free. They charge filing fees, a search fee, examination fee, and issue fees. So fees. There are actually some breaks for micro inventors, smaller inventors. If a little guy, your income's not super high and you haven't done a lot of patents, they give you a break as a micro inventor, but the government fees can add up. And then, like I said, another fee is potential patent searching before you file. I'm a big advocate of doing a patent search or a field of the art search before you file, because you don't know what's out there. I mean,
right.
You really don't. And I always hear, I've never seen this before. Well, it's a big world out there. Have you seen all the patents in China or Russia? Or maybe Russia's not a good example, but have you seen all the patents in Europe? There's a lot of them. There's tens of millions of them, and there's technical journals. It's unlikely that you're going to be aware of everything. So searching it's not required, but it's highly recommended. So searching is actually a budget item. We don't recommend doing them yourself. You can do some initial searching, keyword searching at the patent office website or some other websites, the European Patent Office. But it's good to get a professionally done search through a patent firm.
That's interesting you say that, because I was doing a trademark search for an old company that I used to do business with, and they let it lapse. But I had typed in the wrong keywords for the first 5 times that I have done it over the past 10 years, let's say, and I finally figured out a different keyword, and I can't tell you what it was, but it brought up so much more information than it had previously. And that may be because we talk, and I'm learning a lot while we work together. But that's the problem. If you try to do the search and you think, oh, there's nothing there, it's maybe you have the wrong keywords, or maybe you have the wrong description. And so you can miss a lot that way, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And there's the search engines that the U.S. Patent Office is very rudimentary. There's the professional search firms we use, which are based in the U.S. and aren't going to steal your invention. They have very sophisticated tools. They use ex-patent examiners, so they know what they're doing, and it's an art more than just a science,
right?
I would say. And they have the tools and the experience, and it's okay to do it yourself, but it'll take you forever, and you're never going to get as good of results as they use. And I think they're even using AI now, which is not really available, specialized AI to do it. So they can find stuff that you and I couldn't find. So.
Well, and it's kind of like, when you and I were talking about ChatGPT recently, and it's like, like I wouldn't, you said to me, I wouldn't even think of that, or I can't get the same things that you're getting that I'm, them to. It's because, we have different expertise in how we're using it, right? I'm using it for all my clients. You're using it for this particular thing, and you haven't mastered it. You use it as a general tool. Same with Google, right? It's like, people would call me and ask me a marketing question that I didn't know off the top of my head. So guess what? I went to Google and I found it out, but I knew how to ask the question and get the result. And that's the benefit of an expert who knows how to use the tool,
Yeah. Yeah, I agree 100%. And the one thing about ChatGPT is that it's interesting. It looks like it knows,
right,
but it doesn't. It's like a know-it-all child. It knows something, but not that much. So you actually need an adult in the room who actually knows what they're doing to say, sometimes ChatGPT and other AI engines, they look like they know the answer, but it's like so wrong
Yeah.
or incomplete. So you have to actually know what you're doing. You still have to have experience. Otherwise, you're going to be led down the primrose path, I
Yeah.
think. But it's a good tool. It's just another tool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, how, like you just said, there are some sophisticated inventors who have financial backing. They might be wealthy themselves, but there's the guy like, on the street that says, this could be, I just played with this thing and I created this thing because I know the world needs it. So how can inventors minimize costs during the patent application process if they don't have a ton of money to invest?
Yeah, I think you have to plan, like everything else, you have to plan carefully. So one of the first things I always say is, probably half of the patent applications that are filed or more shouldn't be filed because they're not going to be patentable. So patent searching is really important. So even though people might say, I don't want to spend the money, I want to keep it for the patent application, it's probably penny wise, pound foolish, because
Right.
I think half the time, if you had the benefit of a good patent search, you'd probably say it's not worth pursuing, or we have to really rewrite it in a very different way. And you're just not going to know unless you do a patent search. So first thing, do a good quality patent search. Don't get one of these cheapo searches done in India, where you're going to waste your money. It's not worth it. It's not worth doing a bad job. And then next thing you can do, like I said, if you do a good write-up, like a white paper, it helps the patent agent or patent attorney write it. So the more you do, the cheaper it will be for you, as long as it's well written, and it details everything, because writing takes time. It's not easy. Focus on the essential claims. So a lot of times I talk to inventors and they tell me what the invention is, and they think they know, and then I go, I think this really has this application. So I write claims. That's the legal meets and bounds description of the invention. So what I think is the core of the invention might be different what the inventor thinks. So, but if the inventor can tell me or the patent attorneys what they think are really the key aspects, that can really help focus the patent attorney instead of having to spend so much time trying to figure it out. Another thing that it's a good suggestion is, sometimes you're not quite ready for prime time. You can file what's called a provisional patent application that preserves your rights for 1 year. And it's kind of it can be a quick and dirty application. It doesn't have to be pretty. It can have hand drawings. It can just kind of describe it generally with just enough detail without going into all the detailed background. So that's called a provisional patent application. It will preserve rights for whatever is disclosed for up to 1 year. And then after 1 year, it disappears. But if you file a regular utility application, you claim priority to that benefit of that filing date, and you can get the benefit going back to the filing date of the provisional. So if you're going to approach, let's say, a publication or approach somebody, you can file a provisional application. And that assuming that you follow up with a regular application, you're kind of protected. So those are, some things you can do to minimize the cost.
Are there any additional costs that you haven't mentioned beyond the initial filing?
Yeah, we kind of talked about it, in the fees. There's the patent prosecution costs. Once you file an application, the patent office will review it. They do their own patent search, and they will generally come back and say, your patent's not invented or not patentable for the following reasons. It's too close to this prior art, which means other patents or publications, or the claims don't make sense or they're too broad. So patent prosecution is like, you have to respond to the patent office and tell them why your invention's patentable, or you have to modify the claims to kind of navigate around the prior art or issues of lack of clarity, things like that. Another thing is, assuming it all goes well, like we mentioned, there's issue fees that are due. And then after the patent's issued in the US, you have to pay what's called maintenance fees at 3.5 years, 7.5 years, and 12.5 years to maintain life of the patent, which is 20 years from the date of filing. And then lastly, let's say you get to patent and somebody infringes. Well, if you want to enforce it, there's lawsuits, so there's patent enforcement and litigation costs, even cease and desist letters or lawsuits. So that it can get really, really expensive, but you don't even get to the gate unless you have a patent. So, you know, it gives you the right to sue. A patent is a right to exclude others, including it can be enforced by litigation. So sometimes that's enough. The fact that somebody may get sued, they may back off because they don't want to get sued.
Well, in all these reasons that you've just mentioned are the exact reasons why it's important to work with an IP attorney, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, these are not things that are generally known to, you know, average people. I mean, it's very specialized knowledge. There's a lot to navigate. There's a lot of nuance. But you know, these are the kind of things that, you know, can be budgeted as well. Yeah. And there's ways to handle things. So, you know, try to keep the cost down as low as possible. And sometimes, you know, once inventors weigh the cost and benefit, they say, you know what, maybe it's not worth it. And, you know, a good patent attorney will tell you the prospects of getting it through are not high, or, you know, maybe there's just not going to be the market. So it may not be worth it, but at least it's good to know before you, you know, put all this money into it, whether you should do it or not.
Right. The investment of seeking you out and meeting with you, at least initially, can save them thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars, and you know, in not only just filing fees, but lawsuits and all those other things that come down the line. Yeah. But like you said, they could do all this work ahead of time on their own, put all the time, money, and effort into it, and then it could be all for naught. And you can answer those questions pretty reasonably quick to let them know whether they should pursue it or not, or what they need to adjust to make it go through, or, you know, do some homework and that sort of thing. You know, that's pretty important, I think.
Yeah, you know, people have to really think in terms of the value of their time and their opportunity cost. If you're spending time doing X and it's not going down a good path, you're much better off not doing that. Just say cut your losses, or don't start on that path, and then not lose the opportunity, because maybe you could be spending your time on a better project. And we were talking about Les Conard, who's a watchdog. He's very sophisticated about it. Like he looks at it very strategically. Like, you know, and he's come up with some great inventions that they decided, you know, it's not really worth pursuing it because of the marketing problem or this other problem.
Right.
You know, there's so many ways to fail and so few ways to succeed, you know, or actually there's a lot of ways to succeed, but many more ways to fail. So he's decided wisely a lot of times, like it's just not, the market's not there, or it's too narrow or something, but he goes into it like and gets all the information.
Right.